This series is made possible by the generous donation of Stifel Financial and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Where Do We Go From Here? I'm the host, Lou Sitzer, and I'm with Will Morbeck, who is president of the Nevada Irrigation District Board of Directors. So welcome,
Thank
Will.
you. Thank you for having me.
A brief explanation of the series, Where Do We Go From Here, is what developed out of a general confusion in society as to what's real, what isn't, how do we approach the media, how do we figure out how to trust one another and how to build that trust. So my feeling was to start at the local level, to start with people we know or want to get to know or should get to know. And so these programs can all be found on the internet at the NevadaCountyTV.org website, YouTube channel, and they can also be found under my YouTube channel, Lou Sitzer. You can find them NevadaCounty.org. So, welcome, Will.
Thank you.
A little bit of intro. You've been on the board now almost 4 years?
Almost 4 years,
So
3.5 years.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, originally I started out as a field representative for a Rice Growers Association, and I traveled throughout Northern California representing farmers, helping farmers with their crops. And then I was a field representative for a wheat co-op and with a more expanded area from Northern California all the way down to Tulare and parts of Nevada and Idaho.
What got you interested in rice and wheat crops?
You know, I started out as actually a sweeper in a rice mill, and from there, I had a lot of energy and so they moved me to running the rice dryer after about 1.5 years, and I became a manager of a seed cleaning plant after that. So I had a lot of ambition and desire to move up, and I'd had a college education. So I actually quit the union. I was a longshoreman. So I quit the union and became a manager of a seed plant. And then I wanted to get out into the country, and then they made me a field man. And so I went on from there. I was always interested in agriculture, and so since that time I've been doing that.
What drew you to NID and to take on that position?
Well, when I was a rice field man, I worked in the San Joaquin Valley, and there was a lot of water districts there. I think NID, OID, and I was able to see the benefit of having the water come down from the mountains. I always found it kind of interesting. It came all the way down from the mountains and came in these canals, and they would open the canals and flood the rice fields. I thought it was a rather novel concept, and so I decided that I wanted to move and buy some property, and I knew about Nevada Irrigation District. So because part of my area was part of Placer County and Yuba County, because I moved up into the north, and so I searched the area of Lincoln area, the foothill area, and looking for area that had water. So the main priority was having NID water.
Right.
And so I picked some property that had a creek and NID. I knew that water was the essence of a small farm.
It's the essence of life.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so I actually found one that had NID water. And subsequent to that, we bought some property later on in our lifespan, and we actually were able to get NID water through various easements. So to me, that was important.
I should mention that you represent District 4,
4, yeah.
which is the South County, and it
Placer County. Yeah.
Placer County. Does it come over to the Nevada County side at
No.
all? So it's all Placer County
All
side?
Placer County.
And the voters who will be exercising their vote in November are all Placer County voters?
All Placer County. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this does, we do reach Placer County.
Well, that's good.
With Sudden Link, Channel 17. We're also on the internet, so not only is this being streamed but it will be available archival so that anyone from Placer County that wants to watch it
Sure.
will be available. And also the discussion that recently happened with the candidates running for the NID board will also be available through NevadaCountyTV.org. So all
Great.
that is going to be up for viewing.
That's great. I'll
And-
put a link on my website.
Okay, good. That's great. Yeah, and also, Will, you have a website?
Yeah, it's willmorbeck4NID@gmail.com.
All right. And what
it's
we'll
up and
do
running.
is we'll put that on the bottom so people can see it.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'll have to get work on the website and make it a little bit more attractive.
So there are particular challenges that are facing NID now, not just NID, the whole state of California,
bet.
and if not the planet, in terms of the changing weather patterns. We're experiencing some periodic droughts, more rainfall, less snowpack, water scarcity is an issue. Let me ask you a question. Does NID have enough water?
Well, right now, yes, but it depends, on what you mean by for whom. There's always enough water, treated water, because it's only a small, it's probably 10 to 12, maybe 15% of the water, but the raw water is fluctuating, and it's been, the last, I think, 2012 to 2015 period, there's a significant drought. And there was enough water because the district had prepared for it. But as time progresses, and climate change takes over, and we have problems with the water getting into the watershed, and the lack of snowpack, and the heavy rains that are coming earlier, and diminishing the snowpack, then we have to look forward. NID has always been a forward-looking organization from when it started, from the 1920s, from when it started, 1966 with the Yuba Bear Project. So you have to look forward. It's part of your responsibility. So right now, yes, but looking at the climate change and the increased population, the NID stands to have issues later on, and they need to address them. We need to address them now.
Right.
And that's
Which
part
is
of what we're doing.
one of the reasons that you're looking at the raw water master plan, 50-year projection.
Right. It's an update from there was a raw water master plan in 2011. The watershed and the climate's changed. The dynamics have changed. The whole Sierra watershed, has changed, and so the models are showing that there's going to be increased temperatures, like 2 to 4 degrees. Increased turbidity, because it's going to come in terms of rain instead of snow. There's issues with that. So the district is going to embark on a program now to have a revised raw water master plan.
And when does that due?
Well, it hasn't started yet, so it's probably going to be 2 years, a 2-year plan. It's going to start in maybe the next month. And once the contracts are drawn and the bids are in, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's going to be, I think it's going to be about a 2-year program to analyze the watershed in relation to the climate and get an idea what is going to be coming in the watershed and what do we need to do about it. And then the community is going to get involved with that as well.
Right, and I assume that anticipating future needs is one of the reasons that the district is interested in building a dam, the possibilities of building a dam.
Yes, and I neglected to mention that the raw water is supporting a $50 to $60 million industry in Placer County and a $20 to $30 million industry in Nevada County. So, that's important to backstop that, and plus there's environmental issues that come with having water. So. That's the important element of all this, is to ensure that we have water for the future generation of the farms, in my opinion.
In talking with Rem in previous interviews, he explained that if water shortages occur, the first to be cut would be the farmers.
Yes, exactly.
The
Yeah.
last
And that's
would
happening
be,
everywhere.
right, because in California, we're not the only ones experiencing water
No.
scarcity.
No,
Or-
but that is there is a priority level, and farming is a very low priority. That's where it always historically where water comes from.
Right.
You know, I would assume if you were looking throughout California history, you would probably see that that's the first place that's tagged.
And California really hasn't been known for its water. It's had to depend on sort of marginal sources.
Well, no, most of the people live where, I forget what the figures are, but most of the people live where only 20% of the water is.
Right.
And less people live where 80% of the water is. And that's an oversimplification, but that's kind of what it is.
Right. Yeah, so in terms of the possibilities of a dam, I know that there has been some criticism leveled at NID for going ahead and purchasing
Yeah.
$12 million worth of real estate in anticipation.
Yeah.
So how do you respond to something like that?
I don't know that it's 12 million. I think it's about 5 to 6, but
Okay.
as I said last night, you know, when we went into that and established that we were going to look into putting a dam in a certain particular area, I think we sent a message in a way to the individuals that are living there that, you know, there's I don't want to say a cloud over the area, but there was you know, some unsurety of the area.
Right.
Of what do these individuals, and how is it going to affect these people? And so we made a policy to not go out and seek property. Now, NID always historically has bought property when it became available for other reasons, not necessarily for a dam, but for campgrounds or accessory to campgrounds.
Recreation.
Yeah, recreation or tower areas where they need, you know, or expanding a certain facility. The district has bought property. So the policy became that if someone wanted to sell, then they would come to NID, and then their property would be appropriately appraised. And then they could get their own appraisal, and then there would be a negotiation process, and then they would decide if they wanted to buy it or not. And we were not going to lowball them. We were going to give them the actual value of it. We wanted to treat them fairly. And it was only those individuals that wanted to sell. And there were people that wanted to sell either by coincidence or by design. And you know, some of them, there were some probates. There was some, I believe there was a foreclosure property. We didn't buy it in foreclosure, but there were some of those that were potentially foreclosure. But they would come to us, and then it would only be a willing buyer and a willing seller. And it was well established not to go out and hunt. That was, we felt improper, and we didn't do that. So, and there were some probates, and there were some individuals that wanted to sell and lease back. They needed money, or they just wanted to relax.
Wanted to get it over with.
Get it? Well, I don't know what their reasoning. So I didn't go into that. But those houses that we purchased are now being rented, and so we are getting revenue from that. And it wasn't, the whole purpose wasn't to get revenue, but we don't want them to just sit there and lay idle. And so there are some people that had sold it that are renting there. So I think there's about 8 or 9 of them. And I think it's around 4 or 5 million, but but it's in that figure.
Well,
It's a small amount.
yeah. Well, good. I think that's
But we wanted to treat them fairly. I mean, that's the way I felt.
Yeah.
I felt if we turned them down, that you know, it wouldn't be fair to them. That's the way I felt it. And not all of them have gone through. Some of them don't work. They just don't make it.
Okay. Prior to the show, we were talking about what is required of a director, and you were explaining some of the jobs. You know, so as you sit on the board, what do you see as the tasks of a director, and how is your time and energy used?
I think, you know, I had a history. My last position, I was a manager of a transportation company, and I had never done really that before, but it was a family business that I had taken over, helped take over. And so what I had to do is become a jack of all trades. You know, I had to know pretty much a lot about everything. And I think that's kind of what you have to do as a director. You know, you have to be a little bit of an engineer, a little bit of a visionary, you know, a little bit of a researcher. You have to learn budgets, construction, policy, how government operates. If you're in the private sector like myself, you have to learn how government operates, how the bidding process is. You know, the requirements of the bidding process, and then really a lot of research. I mean, there's no book to how to be a director.
I see.
You just, you know, individuals that come in and do this really, you know, you have to go through a lot of effort to get in here to do it. You have to get elected. So there's the type of individual that comes in here it just doesn't land on them. You have to come in there and want to do it. So all the directors that I know are self-motivated, and they go out and do it.
Is there any compensation for board membership?
I think it's $1,200, something like that.
And are you given any kind of health insurance?
Just health insurance, yes.
Okay.
And that's it. Yeah.
So there is some
Yeah.
compensation.
Sure.
Yeah. And how many hours do you have? Lots of committee meetings and board meetings?
Well, there's 2 board meetings a month and 2 committee meetings. And there are other meetings that you meet individually. Particularly as board president, I meet with REM, and we go to other meetings as well. But there's also the learning curve that you go through. And so there's associations that you belong to. You can go to those meetings, and there's lots of those. You know, where you can learn anything from taxing to budget to construction to, you know, water issues. I mean, there's just a lot of things that you can do, and so, you know, plus tours. I've been to every hydro plant. I've been to every dam. I've been to every major project. I've been to many canals, and so, you know, there's a lot of that occurs, and it's all based on your energy and your desire, and they're ready, willing, and able to help you. And anytime I needed anything, I would always get part of the management there. They'd bring me in, and I would have a 2-hour tutorial on budget or whatever I wanted to do. REM would bring in the expert, and I've done that probably 10, 15, 20 times.
It's a big district,
Yeah.
and it has, what is the yearly budget?
It's, I believe, about $90 million, $70 to $90 million.
And how
It's
about
amazing.
the number of employees?
206, I think, somewhere in there. Yeah, quite a number of employees. It's an amazing place. I mean, you don't really know it until you get in and you see it, and you know, all the various departments and how they work with each other. It's quite a place.
What does it seem to you to be the major challenges that NID is facing?
Well, I'd say the Centennial would probably be the #1 challenge, or what to do with the future of the raw water master plan as it comes in, and how to analyze the environmental impact report that's coming in. That's probably the major challenge.
And when is that due?
Well, the environmental impact report doesn't have a real due date, but I think it's about, you know, more than half done, I'm sure. But I don't think it has a due date. I think it's maybe, I don't want to say it's slower now that we have the raw master plan, so it could be slowed down a bit because of that.
So are they connected?
It's about a couple of years. Not necessarily, no. No, they're sort of independent of each other, but they're both have to be somewhat connected. You have to look at both of them. But the raw water the raw water master plan, the revised one, is a 2-year plan. So I would think that they would coincide. They would coincide. But that's the major.
A public viewing and commenting process? I know there is for the EIR,
Yeah.
is for the raw water master plan.
Yeah.
Is there a process for that
Yes,
as well?
yes. There's going to be a community involvement all through the raw water master plan. And that's going to be discussed tomorrow, at the board meeting tomorrow.
I know that NID has an extensive website. So is the public invited to committees? I know the board
Yes.
meetings twice a month are public.
Yes,
How about committee meetings?
yes, yeah. They're not as formal, but they are formal. We sit at tables, and a lot of the staff are there, sitting at the table, and the public can sit. And I think we're in one of the few water districts or irrigation districts that have committee meetings open. I don't know whether open or not, but ours are open.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I think it's unique.
I
That's
know-
where a lot of the stuff happens.
I know that at board meetings, there's a time for public comment, but
Yes.
there's also the rest of the time where the board has to conduct its business. In committee meetings, is there more conversation and dialogue
Yes.
between public and committee?
Yes, yeah.
Because I know that
There's still a public comment period.
in the
And so
committees.
Yeah, and it's items that are not on the agenda, and then we don't comment on it because it would be improper. It would be a violation of the Brown Act. So, because it's not agendized, so we do have the public comment, and then yes, it's a little more open, but yeah, there's more discussion. But they sit out in the audience and they can ask questions from their chair. They don't. Sometimes they walk up there so they can be seen on camera. But yeah, it's less formal.
I know this is a word that has caught the attention of everyone. It's transparency.
Yeah.
And I know that previously NID was not very visible. But
Yeah.
since the dam has come up as a possibility, it's
Yeah.
become highly controversial and polarizing. So I'm just wondering whether you see the opportunity to develop dialogue with Circle and other organizations that are concerned and have voiced opposition. Is there a
Yeah.
way in which to approach it that can build communication?
Well, I guess, yeah, of course. They are against, we haven't really made the decision to do it.
Right.
And they have already they've made a decision not to do it.
To oppose.
Yes.
Mhm.
Whether, so somewhere in there we have to have a dialogue. I don't know if convincing is the way, but at least explaining. But I don't know that it's convincing is, but we just are going to do what we're going to do and provide them the information and everyone else the information. And then let them work with us. They've offered to cooperate, and when it works, that's fine. And I expect cooperation. But in terms of the word transparency, I always kind of get myself into a little box there because, to me, it has to have another word to it.
Mm.
It can't be. It's almost like saying something, but you should say something else. What it is if you don't like something, you're not transparent. Well, okay, but what do you mean by that? And how do you address someone's complaint that you're not transparent? I mean, if you have open meetings, if you have agendized items, and if you have a full discussion, and if you have a website, and if you have an email.
Yeah, you're explaining really that now NID has become fully visible. You've got a website, you're streaming, you've got audio transcripts, you've got committee meetings. So you're doing the transparent thing.
We are transparent. Plus, we all have emails, and anybody that can email me, and if I have the answer, I'll give them the answer. If I know it. If I not, I'll direct them there. Mm-hmm. So that opportunity is available. And we don't have to go through a staff to get to me. Mm-hmm. I don't have staff. I'm on my own operation here. So if somebody emails me, I email them back. It's as simple as that. And I don't know how else you can be more transparent, except if you do something wrong, you're not transparent. I mean, that's my point is that I think It isn't that I'm tough on that word, but I am a little bit sometimes. I think we've done all that we can. Maybe we could do a little bit more, because if I don't say that, I could be non-transparent. So.
Well, I think as a government agency,
Sure.
NID has learned to become more and more responsible to the public.
Oh yeah,
And so
it's a good thing.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
and it's ongoing. This isn't going to change. I guess what I'm concerned about is I would like to see some kind of spirit of collaboration, and I know that's a tough one.
It's a two-way street.
I know, and I know it's a tough one.
Yeah.
All you can do is your best at it, and the public is going to have its voice.
Oh, and it's important. They teach us. It's a learning experience,
Right.
and I'm ready, willing, and able to listen to the public. And they have great ideas. You have a great community here of professionals, and they're very knowledgeable, and they're very well respected. So, when they come to the meetings, and they're very involved. And so I listen to them, and they've been always kind, and so I have no problem with that, and with the community involvement, and I'm glad to see it. And so that's not, I think we can all move in a direction. We may not agree with, all the time, but I think we can agree to disagree at times as well.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a democracy.
I mean, we have to make the decisions. They fall here, and I labor over decisions. Anybody who knows me knows I can spend days thinking about something, and then I come to a decision.
So let me ask you about an issue that I think you've discussed in the past, and that is the difficulty of herbicides, such as Roundup,
Yeah, it is a tough one.
on ditches, because you do need to control growth, yet Roundup has been found to be carcinogenic.
Yeah.
And as an
I'm
organic farmer,
I'm sensitive to that in many ways.
you're an organic farmer,
Yeah.
I'm an organic farmer,
Yeah.
we're watering with NID water.
Yeah.
What does that do to the crops we grow?
The studies have shown that they don't find any incidences of that in there, but nevertheless, we're proactive in trying to find alternatives, and we have a maintenance program right now to develop that. A plan that was established early last year, and we implemented that plan at test plots to a demonstration area to try and see if we could alleviate it, and use other methods as well, either with livestock or with steam and cultivation. It's very, the issue what we have is that it can potentially be done with hundreds of people out there with hose.
Yeah.
And so, the question is, can we find an alternative? And I think, the next season, we can get there a little bit earlier and get it when it's smaller, and find some products that work. And that's my goal, is to do that. And then I think it's important, because we don't want anybody hurt. I mean, we don't want anybody sick. It's not something that I would cherish. I'm concerned about it, and I'm going to make every effort to try and do what we can to alleviate that. But we have to find the alternatives, and maybe do less. Maybe the places don't have to be as clean. The ditch banks, maybe they don't have to be that clean.
Right, or maybe people can take more responsibility for their particular ditch areas.
It would be, that would be nice. I know there's going to be an alternative.
Well, we're coming up on November election time. You're running for District 4.
Yes.
And this program will air and be available on the internet. Anything you'd like to say to the public in terms of?
Well, I'm ready to work on the next phase. As I said last night, the district has a history of making the bold decisions from 1917, when it first came into the mind of two individuals, the churches, Mr. and Mrs. Church, Munson and Kate Church, and then in 1921, I believe, is when the Board of Supervisors of Nevada County had a vote for it, and in 23, Placer County had a vote, came into the district, and then in 66 was Yuba Bear. So now we're on the precipice of another decision that has to be made. What do we do about storage? Do we build the Centennial? Do we not build the Centennial? Do we need to do it? Do we not need to do it? Do we have alternatives? Are there alternatives? And there are many alternatives that are going to be analyzed in the environmental impact report. There's probably 10 alternatives. So those decisions have to be made with the new raw water master plan and with the help of the community in the community plan that we're going to have that are going to involve all the various community members, the citizens, the environmental, the farming community, the political community, the cities, and other community that I haven't mentioned, that are going to be involved in helping us guide in the next 2 years the pathway to what we should do in the next 50 years. So we're going to make those decisions. But I mean, I guess my point is that, I'm ready to make that decision when we get all the facts. And I'll labor over it, but I will make that decision.
Are there any conversations, because we're one county in the state of California that is all going to be experiencing a water, I won't call it water scarcity, but water issues that have to do with conservation and other forms of water use. Is there any conversation happening among counties and at the state level as well, as to how to approach this?
Well, the analysis, I believe, is on the whole Sierra watershed. And I think each individual water agency has to address their own individual needs based on the amount of storage that they have available. But I think we're all facing the same problem. And it depends on what their needs are, because our needs may be different than other counties that don't have the irrigation that we have. We have the benefit of supplying the $60 million industry, and we have the water availability. We're a little different, but we also have needs, big needs, and some of these areas don't necessarily have the needs, but they still have to address the problem based on what needs they have. So I think it's all through up the Consumnes, Bear, American, watershed.
Are there any other counties statewide that are considering dam construction?
Yes, there are down farther south. There are dam projects down south, yes. And they're not I don't think they're as large as this one. But there's the sites, which is a huge one. But I don't think that's a community, that's the state. But there's the sites reservoir, it's massive. But yes, there are, I think there's Los Vaqueros. I think there's one of them down there. And there's some smaller ones, but nothing like the Centennial. I think it's rather unique. The Centennial is for this community.
Right. It's just I anticipate that water is going to become more scarce and more expensive.
Yes.
In California.
Yes.
It's going to be major.
It already is. I mean, it already is right now. I mean, we could have sold water, in the last couple of years. It's that scarce. But we decided not to save it for the community and for the next year, for our next year's storage. So it is already scarce. There's already a need coming for it because all the water is coming really early and it's not being stored. We're pulling water a month different than we used to. A month sooner. In May.
Right, from reservoirs.
Instead of in June, because there's lack of snowpack. So, and that's all throughout the Sierras.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I anticipate that this will not be our last show.
No, I'm happy to be here.
And that we will continue to talk about the Centennial Dam, the Raw Water Master Report, the EIR, also forest management and other.
Yeah, we're doing forest management right now at Scotts Flat. And we're looking to get a grant to further that, another 300 acres. And that's going to make a big dent in taking the fire fuel out of that area.
Right.
And so, I mean, they've already done, I think, 30 or 40 acres recently. And so.
Right. We know that fire fuel is an issue throughout California.
I would think so.
As well as anywhere there are forests these days in the United States.
I think we're blessed in that we have this water district, the water available, and particularly in Placer County, because there's a lot of irrigation that occurs, and that's preventing a lot of the fires. Now you may not have that up in here because it's so broad and you have all the forest,
Yep.
but in Placer County there's a lot of irrigation that occurs, and it does help, I think, in the prevention of fires in that area from spreading, and the availability of water. There's a lot of little lakes, streams, canals.
Well, so I would encourage you to continue to watch Where Do We Go From Here, because we're going to be looking at major issues with major decisions. And thank you, Will Morbeck, for
Thank you, Lou, for having
coming
me.
and for talking about the issues that concern us all here. Continue to watch us. We're on Monday nights, 7 p.m., Channel 17, both in South County, Sudden Link, and in Comcast here. You can also watch us on the internet, NevadaCountyTV.org, YouTube. Okay? So thanks again.
Thanks, Lou.
And we'll see you in a month.